Zamfara state government says it is not considering closing schools despite rising insecurity and a wave of student abductions across parts of the country. Instead, the state government has introduced new security measures to protect learning centers and ensure pupils continue classes without fear of attacks. Tonight, let's speak with Abdul Malik Gajam, Honorable Commissioner for Budget and National Planning, Zamfara State. As at the last time we spoke, he was the youngest commissioner in Zamfara State. I wonder if he still holds that position. Good evening to you, Mr. Gajam. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Welcome to Politics Tonight.
Good evening, Joeke. Great to be here.
Thank you very much. So we'll come back to whether you're still the youngest commissioner. But let's talk about serious issues. In this, wake of security challenges bedeviling the northern part of the state and how unsafe our schools are at the moment, the state government says it is not closing down schools. Rather, there are new security measures to ensure pupils continue classes without fear of attacks. I'm wondering how effective is the current security framework deployed to protect these schools?
All right, Jamaica, first of all, let me thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me the opportunity to be here. The stance of the state government under the leadership of His Excellency Daud Lawal has always been working hand in hand with the federal government, working hand in hand with the DSS and the police and the military to design a holistic framework that will protect lives and property of individuals. And these recent attacks that we have seen started going to schools and these kidnappers taking our children so that we can be in fear, so that we can deter from making sure that the younger generations are equipped with education. I believe it's not mainly that the state government is not open to the idea of closing schools and making sure that the children that are studying are safe. I believe the whole idea is rather than just jumping into conclusion and then working on making sure that we put securities in those schools, we make sure also that we are getting information from the DSS, we are getting information from the police, where we can leave some schools open, and then the schools that really require intensive monitoring and care or closure, then the state government also is open to that.
All right. And I'm aware that schools in areas with persistent insecurity remain closed until conditions improve. But let's quickly talk about this emergency meeting by the 19 northern governors. For some stakeholders and myself, this is just another meeting that may not yield any results because, like I said yesterday, this is not the first of its kind. But for the sake of being optimistic, what urgent issues does the state government plan to table at that meeting? What feedback from, communities or parents is the government taking along to the meeting?
All right, Jamaica. So the idea of all these governors coming, I think it brings out one very important point. In Nigeria in 2015, the whole of Nigeria came and we was against insecurity and Boko Haram at that time. That is what gave birth to the idea of APC and then the leadership of APC that came in to fight this insecurity. Now, you know the limitations of state government when we talk about security. They are not in control of the military, they are not in control of the police, they are not in control of the DSS. Rather, we serve as advisory to these important entities, institutions in Nigeria that takes care of people's lives. However, if you look at it, there has been a gap between communication between state governments and federal government policies. And now this is due to, if you look at the leadership of security in Nigeria today under the leadership of the APC government, you would see there is a lot of gaps. We have ministers of defense that are from the northern part of the country. And then these ministers, what is the framework? What have they put in place for us to be able to work with them at the state level? Because this idea, the information, you need to go to the grassroots and gather this information. We can all chat about what brought out this banditry, the reason why these bandits are doing this, the reason why this kidnapping is. But we are yet to see a holistic framework from the federal government on how to tackle this security issue, especially in the northern part of the country. So without that, we can't communicate better.
There are latest developments from the federal government. The president spoke yesterday. Are you saying you're not impressed with some of this latest developments from this administration?
Okay, so I'm getting there now. The president obviously spoke yesterday. He declared state of emergency on security issues, which is very good. This should have happened 2 years ago when these bandits were there, when this kidnapping started exacerbating the northern part of the country. We are seeing that, so hopefully, we believe a lot of things would happen. Because one important thing I would love the administration, the federal government to consider in this insecurity, they have achieved a lot of good things. When you talk about the macroeconomic indices, when you talk about the inflation coming down, when you talk about the rise in our foreign reserve from $27 billion to $43 billion, when you talk about more money is going to states because of subsidy removal, I believe this administration should allow these things to define them, not the insecurity we are seeing. They need to take very serious action. The idea of dialoguing and following this non-kinetic approach. Now, if you are talking about non-kinetic approach, how do you approach the hundreds of thousands of individuals that have been affected by these bandits, and you expect them just to keep calm and you allow these people to go back to their societies
Also,
with them
Honorable
after
Commissioner,
killing them?
you and I know that, I mean, it's a fact that the federal government cannot do it alone, and that's why the support and the coordinated effort of the state governments is necessary. But going back to what the northern governors intend to achieve with this scheduled meeting, is there a plan for the governors to adopt a unified regional security framework?
I believe we are optimistic. The northern governors are optimistic based on the speech made by His Excellency the President yesterday. So now we are coming all together to have a uniformed approach in terms of how do we deal with this. Because let me give an example. In the recent years before our administration came on board, the Kaduna state government said they are not going to negotiate with bandits. They fought them. The Zamfara state government said we are going to negotiate with bandits. So in a situation whereby you have different states from the same region that share the same borders, and one is taking a different approach, the other one is taking. So now if, for example, Zamfara state dialogue with these bandits, that means they can have free homes, they can move freely, they would not attack the communities within Zamfara state, and the Zamfara state and agencies of securities would not attack them. If that is the case, then they can go to Kaduna state, attack the communities in Kaduna state, then run back to Zamfara state. So we have to have a coordinated, one single approach in fighting this insecurity. Because if we do not do that, Jamaica, listen to me, this is very important. We have started closing schools. What that would do is the future of the younger generations is being taken away from them. If we don't do that, the markets would soon close. If you close the market, we will see drastic downfall of the GDP. We will see businesses cut short, and that would give room for the bandits to have more means of recruitment.
I agree with you, Mr. Gaja, and that was why I asked you that question, because, you know, outside of the northern environments, there's this conversation about lack of unified leadership. I mean, many northerners believe leaders prioritize political bargaining and power preservation at the national level rather than solving regional problems. Is this a fair assessment?
Okay, no, I think there has been lack of proper communication from the federal government toward fighting this insecurity. I don't want to be political, but let me give you one reason. Zamfara state government and the
when you
people
say
of
federal
Zamfara
government, are you restricting it to this particular administration? Because insecurity, banditry, and terrorism didn't start with this current administration.
Yeah, but previous administration fought Boko Haram, and we saw how they had an understanding with the Borno state government and the Yobe state government, and they fought all of that.
When you say previous administration, what administration is that? Because insecurity started with the Goodluck Jonathan administration.
Okay, the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, when you look at it, there has never been a situation under his leadership that you saw Borno state government doing a different thing and the federal government doing a different thing. You haven't seen a situation whereby Yobe or Bauchi taking a different approach from the federal government. Because from the inception, there was understanding that we are going to take charge as federal government into this. And there is guarantee. And the people that were put in that position, obviously, we believe they could actually do it. If you look at this administration now, with fight in banditry, tell me, you as a journalist, have you seen a communique from the federal government, the presidency, or the Ministry of Defense listing out strategies and criteria on how they would approach this fight? Or have you seen them have dialogue with these northern governors that are facing these issues? It has always been
But also,
one
how much
governor.
cooperation have northern governors shown to the federal government? I mean, we have to bring this conversation back home. The two ministers of defense are northerners.
This is very important point. Now, if you look at the government of Kebbi, government of Sokoto, government of Zamfara and Katsina State and Kaduna States, the best thing we can do as subnationals, we give incentives to these military officers, to police, make sure that they have a conducive environment to go after these bandits. All these governors have done that. And then the advisory, also, we have given this advice. For us, it's just to advise them. The military will do it based on the orders they have gotten from up there. Now, second point that you're talking about, having ministers, for goodness sake, we should go for competency. It is not just about having a northern person in a particular position. You see, Zamfara State, the state minister of defense, is a Zamfara State indigene. He was a governor of Zamfara State. And under his leadership, that is when Zamfara State experienced the hardest moment in terms of this banditry. You have seen a lot of reports of dialoguing, misdialoguing, and a lot of things that are bad. And for these 2.5 years, I challenge anyone to tell me what strategy, what has he even brought to Zamfara State for that? So we could be hit that it is your own that is the Minister of Defense. But for goodness sake, you have seen the video that is circulating around.
And there are also allegations that the governor has refused to, kindly hold on, Mr. Gajan, because there are allegations that the governor has refused to cooperate with him because of political differences. Okay. But I guess that's a conversation for another day. I want to take you up on the economy of the states because, I really want to know what has changed in the last 2 years. I mean, insecurity has crippled farming, trade, and mining in Zamfara State. I mean, what measurable economic recovery strategies the state's implementing at the moment? Mr. Gajam, did you get that? Mr. Gajam, are you there? All right.
Okay, when we came on board the market, when we came on board, His Excellency, yes, I'm here. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. So when His Excellency Dawda Lawal came on board, our markets were closed. We realized we can't have those markets closed. We need to open them because we are faced with two issues: economy that is dwindling, that is going down, a budget that cannot keep up, and then the insecurity that is stopping us from unleashing all these economic potentials that we have. What he did was, we can fight both at the same time. On the insecurity sector, he brought in, there is the Security Council meeting that always takes place. And then on the economy also, His Excellency has revitalized, reconstruct most of the markets within those areas, put some parameters that provide security, and then make sure that there is more capital going into the people's hands, going into businesses. That is why if you look at the GDP growth in Zamfara State from 2022 to now, you see from 1 trillion to 2.3 trillion to even targeting 3 trillion naira GDP in Zamfara State, which is good. Additionally, when we came, there was no issue of minimum wage talking about. Even the 30,000 was not implemented. His Excellency now made sure that this civil servant, because Zamfara State, due to this insecurity, the agricultural production, most of the businesses have been dwindled and handicapped by this insecurity. So now the best thing that we have is the civil servant in the states. When you give them more money into their pocket, then the market, you see that reflection. And based on the GDP growth you have seen, that's it. And then when it comes to development and capital development, there are a lot of businesses that are taking place. And I even tell you, Zamfara State will soon open its cargo airport, the international airport that His Excellency is building, because we realize, all right, if these roads that we do not control are federal roads, and that is where the kidnapping and killing of people is taking place, and we cannot toll it unless the federal government approves of that. His Excellency initiated the idea, all right, we have minerals, we have agriculture, but transporting these individuals that are important so that they can invest in Zamfara State, there is need for that airport, one. Second, infrastructure about roads, open up and bridge the gaps between communities so that they can transport their goods and services efficiently. There is even a federal roads that we are building with state government's money now, which takes from Gusau to Ansada, where the major agricultural produce comes from. We are investing the state's money to build that because we cannot wait until there is a support from the federal government that we do this. When the federal government is willing to support states like Zamfara State, which we haven't received any penny from the inception of our administration in terms of support by the federal government, we haven't received any amount from that. But we are building this infrastructure so that we can create enabling environment. We can secure the production of our individuals and make it easier, because in terms of value chain, when you talk about agriculture, which is our major comparative advantage, the transportation from those local communities to the capital, Gusau, takes huge amount of money because of lack of roads, because of lack of security. His Excellency is putting that. We are working on our hospitals, making sure that we revitalize them. For example, the specialist hospital in Zamfara, now we are developing it to be a diagnostic
And I also
center.
see that there is an initiative, Zamfara Economic Resilience Initiative, which, according to the state government, is designed to rebuild and strengthen the economy of the state through inclusive, people-centered development. I mean, simply speaking, it is to restore hope to communities, which, I mean, is a forward-thinking program. But what kind of support are provided, and is there institutional capacity to implement these programs consistently across all local governments? Because the challenge with implementation of some of these initiatives is consistency.
Okay, so let me be very simple on this. The Zamfara Economic Resilience Initiative, you see, after COVID, a lot of countries and a lot of states would have to redefine and redesign their value chain, the ecosystem they create in these businesses, especially for us with having over 190,000 IDPs and communities that have been decimated. So His Excellency now on ease of doing business. There is a Council of Ease of Doing Business in Zamfara State. Even as last month, I know we were sitting with business owners so that we can incentivize them with resources, and some of them facilitate even export license so that they will be able to export some of the materials they process in Zamfara State and go there, and making sure that there is access to financing. We are getting there. We are going to launch the now new state development plan of His Excellency, and a lot of individuals will see the opportunity, because when you talk about economy, when you talk about growth, let's not talk about big grammar. It is very simple. More monies to people's hands, and not as that as giveaway, but productivity and having the startups getting access to finance. That is how you revive an economy. And these are the components we are exploring in a lot of our local government. That is why if you look at our revenue, there has been increase of our revenue over 2x to 3x, 200 plus. That is why now in Nigeria, in the indices that you have seen, we are going higher in that. How do we create more revenue? That is when there are a lot of businesses that have a conducive environment to thrive, and you have individuals that work and earn their livings and then be able to spend those amount of money. And when you have PPP projects that are taking place, we introduce one of the finest PPP policy in Zamfara State. That is why now we are having a PPP project in developing of some of our markets across Zamfara State, and even the insurance that we are trying to revitalize now.
But I'm
that
worried
is why
about
we
something.
are building.
Mr. Gaja, I do apologize. I'm worried about something, which is this, how is the state government avoiding the common issue of overlapping programs, that usually duplicate existing state or federal initiatives?
No, because we learn from where all these things have failed. Initially, Zamfara State is known for just give away money. The state government would get money and then it will buy motorcycles, it will buy vehicles to this individual. But now strategically, because there is a planning, before we do our budget annually, we go through the MTEF program, medium-term expenditure framework. That is when we analyze how much is going to be the amount of revenue, the recurrent revenue that Zamfara State is going. What projection do we have of our FAC? And then what projection do we have of the internally generated revenue? And when we have all of that put in place, then we have this blueprint of making sure that we revitalize the education sector, the health sector, the agricultural sector, which includes the commerce that entails the agriculture, and then the security. And then we divide based on priority allocate
Well,
these
out of
resources,
time, Mr.
and then we
Gajam.
work hand in hand. Let me land on this.
All right.
And we work hand in hand with entities like the World Bank, like the development partners. If you talk about the UNDP and UNICEF, we work with them, especially in our social sector. So the little resources we have, we utilize it into capital development so that we can create jobs, so that we can enhance our revenue. And then the social sector, we can have a subsidy that's coming elsewhere so that we'll be able to have a better healthcare and education for our people.
All right, then. Thank you very much for speaking with us. I mean, I would have loved to take you up on your allegation that the federal government is subsidizing Lagos, which I personally find, crudely pedestrian. But sadly, we're out of time. But I'm sure we'll continue this conversation some other time. Thank you so much.
But this is very important. I also would have wanted to discuss about this.
Speaking with us. But I'm sure you were not speaking on behalf of your principal. Were you speaking? Was that what you did?
No.
All right.
As a citizen, as a young person, as a Abdul Malik, that is how I was challenging the numbers. And it was not about subsidizing, because subsidy does not just mean money.
All right. But that's an allegation you cannot prove, Honorable Commissioner. But I'm sure we'll continue this conversation. Sadly, we're out of time. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Honorable Abdul Malik Gajam is the Honorable Commissioner for Budget and National Planning, Zamfara State. Thank you so much for your time.